Today we're covering 8th grade, Chapter 3, Lesson 8, Write Linear Equations. And so far we've done slope-intercept form. Today we're going to talk about point-slope form. And point-slope form is when you are given the slope, which is the m, and the coordinates of one point on the same line that is not the y-intercept. So you're given the slope and you're giving one set of coordinates. And the formula looks like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so the blue letters are the things we're going to fill in. The red is what's always going to be the same in the formula. The blue y1 and x1, that represents the coordinates that you're going to be given. And then the blue m is the slope that you'll be given. For example 1, write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through -2, 3, with a slope of 4. Okay, so start with y minus, and then in the point that they gave us, the y is the 3, so I plug that in, equals, m is for slope, and the slope they gave us was 4, times x minus, what was the x they gave us? -2. All in parentheses. Now they do prefer that you write it. See how we have this double negative over here? They don't really like you to write double negatives. They would like, because if we were following the rules of integers, we would keep, change, and that would be x plus 2. So that is the preferred way to write it. Y minus 3 equals 4 times x plus 2. They prefer you write it like this. I will accept it like this. Either way. Example 2, we're going to write the slope-intercept form of the equation from example 1. So now I'm going to take what we just did and write it in slope-intercept form. Remember the y equals mx times plus b? So we'll start with the slope-intercept form, and we'll start with y minus 3 equals 4 times x, and I'm going to hit input plus 2. And I'm going to use the distributive property. So this side stays y minus 3, but I'm going to distribute that 4. So that's 4 times x plus 4 times 2, which would be 8. And then I want to put those single numbers there together, those constants together. So I want to get y by himself, then I'm going to move the minus 3. And the way we move something to the other side of an equation is to do the opposite. So the opposite of minus 3 would be plus 3. And I put him with the other constant. So these cancel. Y is by himself. Equal sign straight down. 4x is still 4x, but I need to combine the 8 and the 3 to make 11. And that is the formula there. Slope-intercept form. And now we can see that the y-intercept is 11 and the slope is still 4. Example 3. Write an equation in point-slope form and slope-intercept form for the line that passes through 8, 1 and -2, 9. I think we're missing a letter there. Okay, so this time they didn't give you the slope, but you remember the way we find slope is the change of y over the change of x. So my two y's are 9 minus 1. And the x that goes with 9 is negative 2 minus the x that goes with 1 is 8. Then 9 minus 1 is 8. And oh, those integer rules, they just don't go away. Negative 2 plus negative 8 makes negative 10. And we can simplify that to 4/5, still negative, negative 4/5. And it doesn't matter if the negative sign's on the numerator or the denominator, the whole fraction is just negative 4/5. And you can change that to a decimal if you want. That would be 0.8, negative 0.8. And we're going to start with the point slope form, the new one that we just learned. Remember, y minus, what was the y they gave us? And you can pick either point. So I'm going to just stick with the first one they gave us. So the y in that first coordinates is 1 equals, then we need the slope, and you can leave it as a fraction or a decimal, doesn't matter, times x minus x, the x that they gave us, which was 8. So there's my point slope form. Now we're going to use the distributive property and change it to the y-intercept form. So y minus 1 equals negative 4/5 times x. And then we have a negative times a negative, so that's going to make a positive. What is 4/5 times 8? Well, 4 times 8 is 32 over 5. And I'm just going to leave it like that, 32 over 5, until we get finished. So I need to move that minus 1 to the other side so that y can be alone. He must be alone. So the opposite of subtracting a 1 is adding a 1 to both sides. But when I add it to this, I need to change it to a fraction. So our denominator's 5. If I want it to be 1, then it would have to be 5 over 5 that I'm adding. So they've canceled over here. Y is by himself. I still have negative 4/5 x, but now I have 32 plus 5, which makes 37. Still the denominator is 5. So there's my slope-intercept form. And here was my point slope form. Let's look at some of the problems you're going to be doing. Remember that this is only the part that you're going to fill in. The other stays the same. So for number 1 and number 2, they're just like example 1 that we did. You're going to fill in the y for the y1. And then you're going to fill in the slope for m. And then you're going to fill in the x1. And that's it for the slope, for the point slope form. Then you're going to have to change the formula, move whatever was on this side to that side, and use the distributive form so that you can get to the y equals mx plus b form. And Number 3 is like example 3 that we just did. Okay, let's look at writing point slope form from the graph. So they gave us 2 points. I see -1, -3, that's this one. And then I see 0, 1, that's my y-intercept. And I'm also going to need a slope. And it's really easy to find the slope from a graph. You go over 1, that's the run. Remember, rise over run. So I just went over 1, and I'm trying to make a right triangle. So if I go over 1 and then go straight up, that'll make a right triangle. So I went over 1 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. My rise was 4. So my slope is 4 over 1, which is just 4. Well, I can at least do the y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form. That would be y equals, and the slope's 4, times x, plus the y-intercept was 1. So that's one of the equations. The new one that we've learned, the new equation is y minus, and you just pick one of the points. I'm going to go with that one. So the y in that coordinate is 1 equals, the next number is the slope, and the slope was 4 times x minus, what was the x coordinate? 0. And there's the formula. Now, they could drop off the 0, but this works. This is the formula. That is the point slope form.